Well, another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. As you know, we are huge Lamborghini enthusiasts on this website, and this is kind of the Lamborghini section of the garage. Well, this is the 50th anniversary of Lamborghini, and Amelia Island chose to honor Lamborghini this year. Now, I could not go because I have to pay for all this stuff. I have a job. But I sent my crew down to talk to Michael Locke. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Lamborghini North America, and one of my personal heroes, Valentino Balboni. Valentino has been here at the shop. His picture's all over the wall here. He's the world-famous test driver that drove my Miura when it was new, and my Espada when it was new, and my Countach when it was new. He's quite an amazing guy, and I sent down a list of questions. I had the guys interview him, and here's what he had to say.
I'm Valentino Balboni, and I started with Lamborghini in 1968, April 1968, after the school. And I was looking for a job, and you know, it happens to me to drive by the Lamborghini company, and I saw outside on the parking lot beautiful Miura bodies waiting there. And so I went in and I started looking at those cars. And I ended up filling up an employment form. I've got a letter from Lamborghini starting for an interview, having an interview with Lamborghini. And I was talking to a guy which was a general manager, the general director. He was in charge for everything on those days. And he wanted to ask me what I could do, what I knew about engine, about cars. And I said, well, I'm just out of the school. I mean, I want to learn, I want to know. And suddenly, somebody came to the office with a cigarette on his mouth, and he was very, very upset, and he started yelling, saying, hey, you already wasted too much time. Here is time to work. Stop talking and go to work. And then he shut the door, and the guy told me, well, you just met Ferruccio Lamborghini. And this was the first time I met Ferruccio Lamborghini in 1968. And I was impressed to see this man. I mean, how powerful and how charismatic he was. And after a week, practically, I was starting doing my job as apprentice mechanic at Lamborghini. And since I always loved to drive cars and to listen to the engine, I was used to take car around the buildings, which I was not supposed to do. And everybody was yelling on me and, telling me, don't do that because you have not to do and we will fire you. No, I was still doing that because I was so much in love with this sound of the engine, with this, feelings that I've got from the cars. And finally, one day in September 1973, they called me upstairs, the big director, Engineer Stanzani, called me upstairs and they said, well, now since you don't stop driving around the building, we want to see if you have the attitude to become a test driver. My instructor was Bob Wallace, which was the real test driver at the company on those days. Well, I started test driving production car in '73 with the Espada, with the Yarama, with the Miura, and especially my first car as a test driver was one of the last Miura SV we built in 1973. And I remember September 5 at 10 o'clock in the morning, finally, the man at the security opened the gate and I was out on the road with a beautiful Miura, which was my first road test car. So I can't forget from the emotional aspect this, experience, being a 23 years old guy and being on the road with a Miura. I mean, it's something that you don't forget. And the Miura is definitely, let's say, my favorite, if I can say. Let's say important step on my career was when on 1989, they called me upstairs and they put me in charge of development of the Diablo. And this was the first time, this was when I became, let's say, a development test driver. And to develop a car, a brand new car, a prototype, it is for a test driver, I mean, the most you can reach. It's like a priest to become a pope, you say. And I remember was, a big responsibility for me sitting on a car first time on those years, developing a car which became, after the famous Diablo, extremely performant car. And it was an experience. And I remember sitting with the engineer, talking with the engineer, and slowly, you know, kind of this cooperation and transfer of sensation, of feelings to the engineer. I think we have been able to let's say, have a very nice car, a beautiful car, a car that made a chapter on Lamborghini history. This year is for me, from the emotional point of view, also a very important year because you know, I see big celebration remembering 50 years of the foundation of the company, and you know, it makes me feeling strong emotion because when I started, I never thought to be, after 50 years, still involved with the company.
I'm Michael Locke and I'm from Automobili Lamborghini USA. It's a very long title, actually, for a very small job, which is running this beautiful brand in North America. We're here at Amelia today in the beautiful sunshine and very excited because behind me we have the most unique car in Lamborghini's history. This is a true one-off. The car was produced in 1967 for showing in 1968 in Europe. It debuted at the Geneva show and also shown in Brussels at the auto show there. And it is a Miura concept roadster. What does this mean? It means it's an adapted Miura coupe, which is built without a roof, without side windows, no glass except for the windshield. So it's a truly open car that was designed to spark imagination, which it did. And then, for some reason, lost in the annals of history, the car never went to production. So we have the only one in the world here today with us. This was a Bertone designed car, very famous Italian design house. This, I have to say, is probably one of their most extraordinary efforts of the 1960s. And for a long time, you know, this car almost went into myth and legend. People had heard of it, but they didn't know whether it really existed. And the car went into hibernation for many years, through the 70s and 80s, and was purchased in the 90s by the current owner and was already restored back up to full factory specification. It's a V12 in a roadster chassis. It's almost irrational, illogical to put something, you know, so enormous in a chassis that, in theory at least, won't work. But this was the dream, you know, was to be able to combine the most evocative power plant in automotive with an open top out there in the fresh air, breezy driving experience. And you know, that was what captured Ferruccio's imagination in the 60s, and it's what drives us all the way up to the current day. It's a very exciting time, obviously, to celebrate 50 years anniversary of a brand that not a lot of people have had direct contact with. We are, like some of the cars, a somewhat mythical brand. You've heard of Lamborghini, but you don't really know what they do. And to be able to celebrate that we've been building cars and revolutionizing the industry for 50 years is a great story for us to tell. And in fact, our president of the company is very fond of saying 100 years of innovation in half the time. This event at Amelia Island was really designed to start the year as we mean to go on. So comparing and contrasting where we've come from to where we are to where we're going. And we're following this up with Grande Giro, which is an enormous tour that the company is hosting in Italy in May, and we're going to have participants, we think, from 49 countries in the world coming to drive their cars through Italy, starting in Milan, driving down the scenic routes to Rome. If you imagine 300 Lamborghinis are going to stop traffic, probably going to stop towns. We have nearly 50 participants from the US, many of whom are actually having their cars shipped over there so they can participate in the rally and then have the cars shipped back. So people are going to a lot of trouble to be involved in this. Yeah, so the Aventador Roadster is a car that I've become quite intimate with in the last couple of months because we launched it at a series of previews all over the US, so invite-only previews for interested enthusiasts to come and see the car and touch it before it went live. And then we followed up with a spectacular track and road launch of the car, global launch, hosted in Miami at the end of January, start of February. So we were very fortunate in the US to get the chance to host this for all the journalists and dealers worldwide. 120 Lamborghini dealers from all over the world came to drive the car and to get product training and product knowledge so they could go back and market this car when it comes in the summer. So we're super excited. I'm trying to get as many as I can for the US because we've got an order bank, I think now over 250, and no one's driven the car yet. So I think this year they're probably going to be able to produce somewhere in the region of 400, and then next year, depending on demand, try and increase it. You know, it's funny, in an era where cars are getting smaller and engines are getting smaller, there seems to be no problem with demand for a 6.5 litre V12. So now here we are standing in front of the Super Trofeo race car. This is the first one that we've got in the US. It's a 2013 spec car. They haven't raced them anywhere yet. And we've chosen Amelia Island to bring this car and show the kind of fun we're going to be getting up to later this year. The new developments for 2013, or what I can tell you about, is that they've completely redesigned the aerodynamics package. The car produces a lot more downforce, and in early off-season testing back in Europe, they've been lapping almost 2 seconds a lap faster than the same car from last year, which was already the fastest single-make race car that you could find anywhere. So we've improved upon that. The car is a V10, a tuned V10, but the critical thing, and it's what's rare in race cars, is permanent four-wheel drive. So you can imagine the spectacle of watching these cars snaking around the track with immense grip and immense downforce makes for very close racing, and that's what we're going to see in the US this year.
This is even more powerful and more, you know, the speed on the bends are much higher because of the racing tire. You know, it's a huge grip and the performance, of course, with the special exhaust, with the special tuned engines. You know, you reach 600 and more horsepower, which is amazing on a racetrack.
This engine is developed from our Gallardo V10 engine, but it's heavily modified for lightness and obviously for the durability that you need from a race engine versus a street engine.
But what is the most amazing is the speed you can go on the bends, you know, and coming out of the bends. The car is almost neutral. I mean, and with playing with the power, you know, you have speed on the bends which are unbelievable.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with those two gentlemen and got the chance to see that very cool Miura Roadster. I had a chance to buy that years ago and I passed because it was too much money. Now it was nothing. It was nothing then. What an idiot I was. Always buy any Lamborghini you can when they come up if they seem cheap. Just grab it. Believe me, it'll go up in value. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have more Lamborghini stuff on this website over the next 6 or 7 months to celebrate the 50th anniversary. So if you like Lamborghinis, watch this space.